Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next Cardboard Architects. This isn't Cardboard Architects. This is, what is this? This is, Design with Chris from TGIK Games. That was totally just autopilot there. All right, what are we doing today? So, I was driving on the way home today listening to the latest Cardboard Jungle podcast, and Paul was talking about how he wants a real-time strategy game, a good one. And I'm willing to take the challenge because as soon as he said it, I thought, why have I not thought of this before? So we're going to attempt to do this. And also, I'm at a point with Necromantion and the 4X game that I have to actually like build stuff and do that on camera, and I'm not set up to do that right now. So we're going to work on a new project. So here we are. Let's do this. So a little background. Real-time strategy. My experience with real-time strategy is as far as I played, let's see, Age of Empires, like the original. I think I went up to Age of Empires 3, maybe. I played Warcraft. I played StarCraft, the originals, like when you had to build roads that went with the stupid, you couldn't build buildings without the roads. That was really obnoxious. And I got as far as StarCraft, and I remember being really excited. No, StarCraft 2. Was it? There was an expansion that came out. I think it was Brood War for StarCraft, and I like went away from video games at that point. So, 90s like nostalgia. Here I am. So, let's do this. Real-time strategy. What do we need to do? We need to collect resources. Yes. Hot note to open. Format. What do I need? What do I want? More? I want more. That's right. I want this. Resources. Okay. I was thinking of solutions for potential problems, so I think the fact that we've done Mars helps a lot because that's real time, and real time just works for my brain. So, we're gonna do no. Let's do buildings. Let's do bases. Let's do. So here's the thing. I think real-time strategy, this particular game, we're going to do the standard base building, make units, go to battle. The reason being, everybody's used to that model. So if this game targets video game players, they are eventually going to get to a point where they are... they understand the mechanics of doing real time with a board game, and then we can work on going other avenues. So we're just going to do war. I don't like war-based games, but you know, it's the reality of who the target audience is. Hey, thanks for the auto host, JR. Okay, resources, buildings, bases, units. Okay, so I've got my base. I've got my probes that are, and I do everything in Protoss as well. So that's the terminology I'm going to use for myself. So I've got my probes running around, doing my thing, collecting resources. I've got buildings being built. I've got units running around the board. What else do I have? I think that's going to be enough for now. Okay, so let's do resources. The standard is always going to be 2 resources. Okay, so two main resources and time. What else? Buildings. Are these, so here's a question I was asking myself. Are these hidden or not? Because with real-time strategy, there's the whole fog of war element. And it's easy to build cards that are face down, but it's not easy to reference. And I don't want this to turn into something where you got to turn your cards over or remember what you've got. That's just, it's more obnoxious than anything else, just like that. Yeah, so it's more obnoxious than anything else. I don't know if I want to go that route. So I think, I really don't like the idea of buildings being public knowledge at all times. This will make that note. Really don't like buildings being public. The I should also mention that on the podcast, Paul did mention another RTS game that actually was not in North America. I don't know. I don't remember hearing that name because I listened to their podcast at 2x speed, so I didn't catch it. But I have not looked at the game, so if I'm copying any of the elements, that's purely accidental. I will, however, and this is kind of a good general philosophy on how I do these things. I will look up other real-time strategy board games to see if we copy elements, but I won't do that on camera because that's boring. Not that you're watching somebody that types out their notes on Google Documents. Can't imagine how riveting that must be, but I guess yeah, I'm not going to be doing the I won't do the research portion on stream because super exciting. Okay, buildings. Well, forget now if they're going to be public or private. Let's say distance from base building. I don't think this needs to matter. I think okay, so units. I think unit travel time does. Hey, Element Fire, thanks for the auto host. I think unit travel time matters, but once there, it turns into a rate of production per turn. So if I've got a probe doing gold or crystals or whatever, and then I decide, okay, I need to move that over to gas, then there's like a staging area or a movement or something, and so they will move there, and then wow, real time really does present a lot of problems. Like, okay, here's a problem. I want to move my probe, as we were just talking, so I'm going to move the probe, but how do I determine how long that probe needs to stay in like a staging area? Or do they not stay in the staging area? Do I just move them and that was the travel time? And at what point, what are trigger points? That's going to be a big one. A lot of this is going to, what the heck did I just do? Control Z. Trigger points. A lot of this is going to function on a hand of cards and when those cards get played. There needs to be common areas for cards to be played. I think there need to be well, I shouldn't say need to. Special actions. There's special actions and there are base actions. It's almost like if you've been following the what's that game called? The deck injector game, right? So in the deck injector game, have I even done? I don't even know if I've done that as a video yet. I don't think I have. Anyway, there's a set of base actions where if you discard any card at all, you get to take the base action. Congratulations. There are special actions that require a special card, but on a special card, there are also base action symbols. So if you discard, like if your hand is only special actions, it's not like you can't take a base action. You can just discard a special card or use a special card, I should say, to take one of your base actions. But the point is, there are special actions and there are base actions, and they will be played from a hand of cards. And as you play those cards, you will get to take certain actions. So in RTS, you have a constant flow of goods. In this game, I feel like what if hand size grew? What if hand size grew over time? So that would be a lot of cards. Ew. That would be a lot of cards by the end of the game. Oh, well, I mean, that's assuming that if the cards don't ever stop growing, so to speak, that would be the problem. But in this case, okay. I mean, you can put a cap on the number of cards that are in a hand, right? I mean, is that reasonable? You could say hand size is based on unit, like number of units you have. Oh, okay. Hand size. What's going on here? Hand size based on the number of units per type. So let's say, for instance, you've got workers, you've got military, and workers, we're going to call them blue. Bleu. Blue. Military. Hold on. Shocker of shockers. We're going to call military red. You know what? No. Let's do military as orange. Because I highlight everything at work in orange when it's a problem. I don't know. Just go with me. I'm a little tired, a little loopy. Okay. Workers, blue. For each, what are we representing here? Workers are going to, so the cards represent the ability to take actions. Let's say, buildings need to, I'm all over the place. Building production. The reason this jumped out at me is I was thinking, if I play a worker card, do I gain another worker? Which, I don't know. I don't think so. But then that goes to the building, and the building needs to produce something. So, yeah, that's building production. Workers. Techs. We'll come back to that. Okay. Workers. They're going to have actions. Those actions will be produce. Those actions will be defend. Ugh, do I want to deal with that? I mean, so I watch, well, I guess last year. Hey, Stephanie, how you doing? Okay. I watch a lot of professional StarCraft on YouTube because I don't watch TV, I watch YouTube. And those are the only times I ever see probes actually used for defense. So, Steph, I should say, to get you up to speed, I'm working on a real-time strategy game because I was listening to Cardboard Jungle, and Paul said that he wanted a real-time strategy game, and I'm taking on the challenge. And also because I don't have anything else that I can really work on technically at this point in time. So, yes. Okay, so actions produce... We're not going to worry about defend because that's just, it doesn't, the point is it doesn't happen that often, at least not enough. And if it does happen, it happens at the pro level. And well, let's not dig that, we're not that interested in that. Yeah, we're not that interested in the deep cuts. So actions would be produce, build. Oh God, that should have been easier than that struggle. The building. All right, we're going to leave it at that for now. Yep. Military. Attack. Defenses. More like buildings or fortifications. I mean, are they the same thing? No. No. I mean, when I'm thinking of building, I'm thinking like... this is kind of like your bunkers of the world, and then fortifications. This would be like more like kind of the spikes. Let's not overcomplicate this in the first 10 minutes. Okay. Buildings, defensive buildings. Let's do that. Buildings. Spelling's hard. Okay, defensive buildings. What else do we need? Oh, patrol. Scout. Well, that would fall under scouting. Or that would fall under patrolling. Okay. All right. Let's do fog. Let's put a little note down here, fog of war, because fog of war, question mark, because how are we going to deal with that? How are we going to deal with a board as well? Oh, I know how. Okay, board. This is going to be... I'm recently obsessed with this idea of having a base board and then everybody having their own little boards on the side. So I think we're going to borrow from that again, and we're going to say a large, a main board with hexes, subboards for all the people, for all the bases. And then the subboards will be... The subboards will have to have... oh, wait a minute. If we abstract out... Okay, if we abstract out the bases and say that they're just... Oh, no. Okay. Let me complete my thought here. If we abstract out the bases and just say, okay, we're going to build a building and that's a card, and you can place it face down because it's going to be private. And then you can do things with that building. You just have to remember what it is. Well, that's just kind of obnoxious. I don't want to deal with that. If we have a board that is just for the bases, you can have it, it's smaller and it'll have little hexes. What you can do is you can put down tokens, and those tokens will represent the buildings, right? This might be kind of a production issue or extra cost, but too early to worry about that. Joe always tells me at this point in the game, don't worry about it, just build the game that you want. Whereas I always lean towards that's going to cost a lot of money, but, you know, another time. Cards can be in a holder or something, and so players can see what their cards are, and then there will be tokens on their little board. So here we go. Okay, so subboard for all bases. Subboard will be populated with tokens to represent. Oh, so that means that we can actually do movement with probes, because they can actually, yes, good solution. Okay, subboard will be populated with tokens to represent buildings. These tokens will be face down. Cards to represent buildings will face the players. Now, movement of probes can be shown... Oh, wait a minute. Well, okay. So here's the question. If we're showing movement of probes on various buildings, or let's say it's a probe going back and forth to a mine of sorts, you're kind of giving away what building is what, or you can you see through the fog of war because a player has to move their probe along a type of, you know, they're moving it on a physical board and everybody can see that. That's a portion of the fog of war I think I'm willing to give up because it adds to the nature of real time. And I think maintaining that idea of real time versus the idea of fog of war, and just, I mean, at a certain point, nobody, like, there's a lot going on and nobody can see it. It becomes kind of pointless, which then begs the question, do buildings need to be hidden? I think they do, because a big part of watching the pros do what they do is being able to scout. And that's like whoever has the most information at the beginning of the game and whoever can adapt to what they see is coming their way or what they think they might have saw coming their way based on the kinds of buildings that are being built, those are the players that have the advantage. Information is key in this case. So movement pros can be shown with tokens on the player board, on the sub board. Okay. On the main board, these bases will be represented by a single token or a double token or something like that. Okay. How do we, okay, so then the question is fog of war. Let's put this under here. So fog of war in base, probes, not subject, buildings, building tokens face down, cards face players with using a card stand. Or a player's hand. But I guess there's just, I mean, I'll leave that note in there, but there's something about I'm building a base and I can see all these cards in front of me, and there's a satisfaction of this is my base, these are all my things, and this token is that card there, and so on. And I guess the question does become, well, what do you do with, like, how do you know what token belongs to what card? I don't know. We'll get there. I mean, you could number them, but tokens, I always feel like they're easily marked. I mean, they're not like cards where you can sleeve them, even though I'm not a sleever. But these are the things you gotta think of. Oh, you could do number tokens. I mean, and it doesn't matter what number you put down. Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. Use number tokens to note what token belongs to what card. Okay. Next, I think I got distracted from something else. Oh, off base. I didn't get distracted. Off base. Okay, so we get to a point where we have units and we need to send them off base. When they're off base, how do we do movement at that point? That is very much subject to fog of war, because what's the point of having... Here's the concern. Is this just going to be a token palooza of 1,000 bits of cardboard, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't want this to get out of hand because it could get out of hand very easily. So, okay, so off base units subject to fog of war. Fog of what? Fog of war. Okay. So they'll be subject to fog of war. Does the map change? Yeah, the map should change, which means we need to do board. Oh. Okay, so it's not going to be a main board with hexes. It's going to be like a modular board. Which, as an interesting speak clearly. Which, as an interesting discussion at some point, what's the next step for modular boards? They're so versatile and it's easy to use them for everything. I'm curious what the next thing is going to be, because I feel like I abuse them, and I want to get to the next thing. I just don't know what it is. It's very possible there isn't a next thing. I mean, who knows? Okay. Let's do some real-time nature. I mean, this is all, none of this is like groundbreaking as far as real-time games are concerned. This is pretty baseline. So let's do the real-time elements. So there need to be spots on the board where players play generic cards to take their actions. First player there. Well, when a player, okay. When a player plays a card, they can take an action. How do they get more cards? Okay, so something this game might suffer from is the idea that early game turns are just going to be scripted. Like, there may have to be something where it's kind of drafting units at the start. And if you're drafting units at the start, what kind of, like, how much of a setup do you want to start in the game is the question. Let's do this. Setup. Drafting. Oh, okay, so how deep into the game do we want players to be? Good questions. Okay. Real-time elements. When a player plays a card, they can take an action. It needs to be... All right, so there needs to be a level of automation. And let me put it to you this way. I'm thinking about what happens when there's actually combat going on. And I've got my carrier that's spitting out 8 of its little fighters. 8 of its little fighters. The fighters can function, like, there are things within a real-time strategy that just function on their own. If you say, go kill that thing over there, it will attempt to go kill that thing over there. So units should be able to function on their own. That means that, okay, so there need to be spots. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but this is kind of the dirty nature of starting up a game. Also, I'm running out of time for this particular video, so I'm trying to cram everything in and actually get to some real-time elements because, well, it's an RTS. Spots. Okay, there needs to be a worker spot, and there needs to be a military. And yes, those are singular on purpose. They need to be in the middle of the board. Middle and or easy to reach for everyone. And then the worker spot, this is going to cover buildings. Actually, oh, you know what? Let's not call it a worker spot. Let's call it a base spot. And then a military spot. Okay. And then the base spot, players can, take worker actions, building actions. I like how I say building actions, and I'm thinking to my head, oh yeah, it's just building actions, like build a building or have it produce something. And I think, oh, well, there's researching and there's spitting out units, and I feel like there's a ton involved in building actions, and I'm way oversimplifying it in my head, which I shouldn't be. Okay, so there are movement orders, attack orders, why are movement and attack different? Well, you can move somewhere, not fire your weapon. Attack is actually fire your weapon. Okay, it's reasonable. I'll allow it. Okay, yeah, a move and attack. Why get complicated? So, let's say Aiden's across the table from me, and I want to move my probe. So I'm going to play a card, and I'll play it, and it'll have something on it. I don't know what, and it will allow me to move. So I'll play my card, and then I'll move, and then I can play another card, and I'll move again. Ooh, that's gonna get really. That's gonna get really okay. No. You just saw the first playtest of this game, by the way. Here's the problem. So I don't want to be like moving stuff all over the place. So this is, we need to make it so that using tokens, cards face down, unit subject, in base, probes not subject. Okay, so actually in base, probes, these will not be moving around. These will be assigned to a building and stay there. I almost want to say you produce goods after you've played every card in your hand. Now, how does this work out in an actual real-time strategy, in a digital real-time strategy? Over the course of time, you're getting a constant flow of goods. And as you get that flow of goods, you've just got probes going back and forth. So there's no like, I'm looking for a marker that's similar to where, okay, I've played 5 cards out of my hand. What does that represent? And why at that why at that arbitrary point in time would I receive a lump sum of goods? There's no good reason. But also, I don't want to be in a position where it's like, I get a card, I get some goods. I play a card, I get some goods. That's obnoxious. So the obvious answer is to go with, obvious, I hate that word. The easiest answer to go with is just say, when I play my 5th card, I get, 10 goods per probe that's in a particular building. Why am I hesitant to go that route? I don't know. Why am I hesitant to go that route? Probably because it's just the first and easy. It's the easy way out. Okay. These will be assigned to a building and stay there. When a player has played their 5 cards, they will collect the appropriate, I spelled it right, number of goods. Yeah. Okay. How much time do I have on this one? 35 minutes? All right. Well, I think that's a good start. I don't think that's a good start, but I don't like to make these videos any like an hour long or more than 40 minutes, and this is already at 35. So this is where we're gonna stop. We're gonna make our to-do list. Everything. That's the to-do list. What is it? It's 3/9/17. What do we need to do? Resources, whatever. Buildings, let's do some buildings. List some buildings. So, list some buildings. Bases, we sort of figured that out. Units, I feel like units is going to be the last thing that I kind of jump into. I have no feel for what the units would be. All I know is this will be a military-based game. I don't know if this is going to be in space. I don't know if this is going to be where it's going to be. If you have a feeling, let me know. I'll be happy to pursue it. This is one of those things where I'm quite good at kind of designing themeless structures and then putting one on later. And that's not the same as pasting on a theme, by the way. You can find a theme that fits your scenarios, especially this one because it's battle. It's building a base and battling. It's pretty straightforward. Or better said, there are plenty of things that apply to this particular set of parameters or mechanics. All right, hand of cards. Do we need to let's do some hand mechanic development. Okay. So anyways, units, this is going to be, I don't know if I finished this thought, but this will be near the end of initial build. Trigger points, this will be, one of them will be finish hand. That might create an interesting problem where players are just like, what prevents a player from just putting all 5 cards down and just doing that over and over again? Oh, I guess how do you get cards, right? Okay. I only like to do these videos in less than 30 minutes, and here I am. I'm keep going. Finish hand. Let's call it the dump restriction. So you have to play a card, draw a card face down. One at a time. I feel like it's just one of those silly things that you have to put in there to make sure that players don't try and game the system because, well, gamers will be gamers. Rob, that was right at you if you watch this. Aiden will be laughing when he sees this. Okay, hand of cards. We're going to do some hand development. Fog of War. We'll worry about that later. The board, it's enough is there, but don't have to worry about that. Real-time elements, that's probably going to be the big one. And then real-time elements. Okay. That's everything. So thank you for hanging out. Again, my name's Chris Renshaw. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter as TGIK Games. You can also listen to the podcast Cardboard Architects. And yeah, and we're on YouTube because that's probably what you're watching us on right now, or Twitch as TGIK Games. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys next time.